All right, I have come to the very end of Canto 23 of Orlando Furioso by Ludovico Aristo, and this is the end of the book one. It's split into two books. It is so long. This is page 727 in on my ebook copy, 82% of the way through the book, and the rest is notes. Um, so I'm not going to sum up the entire first half of the poem, though I think I might stop and do a little dive and try and kind of get things straight going into book two of this thing. This is a good time to take a pause. I know I'm fairly far ahead of Tom at LA Books, who is doing a read along of it. I haven't watched his videos in a dog's age because I've taken a break. I'm going to take them back up again and rewatch them and go through my own these videos, discussion videos, and see if I can't cobble together some thoughts about this first half. But at the moment, let's just talk about the end of this, because this is the perfect place to stop, because Orlando Furioso is mad Orlando, and this is where Orlando goes mad. And what we do is at the very end of this, there's been other stuff going on in this canto, but at the very end we finally get back to Orlando, and he comes across a meadow and a field and all that, where he finds Angelica's name carved into the wood by with twined with Medoro, who we know is the Saracen who went to rescue his lord, got grievously wounded, managed to be was rescued and nursed back to health by Angelica. Angelica, who fell in love with this guy, who is he's a common soldier. He's not even a great lord like the Count, which is probably a big no-no when it comes to stuff like that. Chivalric tales, you've got to be majestic and a knight and a king and a prince and the most amazing battler ever. He's a common soldier, but she fell in love with him, and she took him to this shepherd's hut and nursed him back to health, and off they went. Orlando finds the names there and it's like, okay, it can't be Angelica. And then he finds stuff that's like, oh my god, it's in Angelica's hand, some of these carvings. But it's like, okay, he's trying to come up with justifications as to why that would be. It's like, oh, someone's done this to torment me, to slander her. They've even learned how to imitate her hand. So he's trying to do everything possible, but it's not working. It's not working. There's too many tales here of that, and he's grief stricken, and so he needs to bed down for the night. And where does he go? He goes to the shepherd's hut. And the shepherd, seeing that he is so depressed, says, oh, I'll tell you the story of the two young lovers who are hereabouts, because everyone loves to hear that story. It always cheers them up. He tells him the story of Angelica nursing Medoro back to health, and how much she loves him and all that. And he collapses into the guest room, consumed by grief. And then he does exactly what I thought he was going to do. He suddenly realizes, oh my god, I'm lying in the very bed that they probably embraced, fucked, and were very intimate with each other. And he jumps out of the bed and he rushes out of there as fast as he can. He doesn't wait for dayfall. He rushes out, and we have a whole thing here of him being consumed by his madness. He starts talking about, like, these are no longer tears I weep, on 126. He said, streaming so copiously from my eyes, and he says, like, the vital humors now by passion sped through secret conduits into my orbs arise, and thence now excluded, and with them pours my life, thus ebbing to its final hours. And his cries, they're no longer his sobbing. That's no longer something that's going to help with relief. But when these gusts come forth, I feel no ease, for love, who burns my heart within my breast, fanning with its wings, creates this breeze. Love, by what miracle do you contrive to burn my heart and yet keep it alive? And in the end, he says, like, he who Orlando is dead and gone, slain by his lady, so untrue to him, which, I mean, we can get into, by her ingratitude, alas, undone. And I am his spirit, who the fates condemn to suffer in this dread infernal zone, no body, but a shadow, which must rove a warning to all those who trust in love. And he goes back to that first rock where he found Maduro's screed was sculpted on the rock, and he slashes and crashes that rock, and splintered fragments flew. He's so strong he can smash racks. And then the cave, the tree, each bole or stem or stalk he hacked, whereon those names he still met his view. From that day forth, no shepherd with his flock their grateful shade or pleasant coolness knew. The very spring, so crystalline and pure, from onslaught such as this was scarce secure. And it actually details him fouling the spring, so that it's gonna, from then on, its purity is vanished. But and he sleeps, his fury, his force spent, but not his fury. And his grief so swells, his sorrow so amassed, that madness clouds him, in which he long erred. And on the fourth day, because he's gone through this, by fury aroused once more, the mail and armor from his back he tore. He actually strips himself completely. His clothing he began to tear, laying his matted paunch and torso nude. And he leaves his sword behind, and all his stuff. And barehanded he uproots an entire forest, a tall and noble pine that lays it low, but other pines after the first he pulls, as if so many fennel stalks they were. Tall oak and seasoned elm likewise he calls, and beech and mountain ash and larch and fir. So he's ripping up everything. And he is like, the shepherds are like, hear this calamity and come running to see. But at this point, again, because we always have to end this way, or Aristo is always ready to hook the audience. But if this point today I go beyond, too tedious perhaps my tale will be. I would rather now cut short my song than weary you by making it too long. Which is kind of is a double thing of like, oh, this has been a fairly long canto, but it's like, oh yeah, folks, we're only halfway in this gigantically long poem. Gigantically long. It's one of the longest in European literature, apparently. And I can believe it, since we are on page 726, and I'm assuming there's another goodly hunk to go. So that is the Canto 23 by Ludvigo Aristo, and I will probably purchase actually, I'm going to take a break and see if I can't spend a week just trying to kind of get together thoughts, listen to what Tom at LA Books has said. I might even wait for Tom to catch up, in which case I'll find something shorter to read in the meantime, and go from there. Because, actually I might find some short poems to read on here, as a little daily thing. Find a collection of poetry or something, maybe in copyright this time, so I can actually publish it. That's the other thing that's been happening. You if anyone stumbles upon this, I've been reading the whole thing out loud, but I've been doing that in private, privating the videos, because it's all copyrighted material, and I shouldn't be sharing full text of somebody's copyrighted work, which they put so much work into. So that's just for my own benefit to get it. But just, boy, reading this out loud has been fun. I've enjoyed it, and I will continue enjoying it. When I get, I'll try, and you'll know, because I'll get a video out on part one, and maybe Tom will have caught up with me by then. I'll have to go see exactly where Tom is on the cantos, and go from there. All right, I have been Jay. This has been a long-ass discussion on one little part of a thing. Oh, and I should say that, actually, see, this is me burying things at the very end. This is like, all that I should edit out and just go back to the point of, the thing that strikes me about Orlando here is, Orlando strikes me as a very human and a very terrible response to male grief, male thwartedness in love, which is sort of like a mass mass shooter, somebody who, for whatever reason, decides to turn his violence outwards on the world, and goes into a school, goes into a workplace, and kills a shit ton of people. That's the kind of the sense I get from Orlando. And in this world, which is of knights and all their kind of terrible violence, Orlando, I can't imagine exactly how violent and how terrible Orlando's madness is going to be. Like how many people he is going to he's going to indiscriminately kill everyone, is my sense. That'll be interesting to see if that's actually borne out by the second part. But it's like, oh, Orlando has gone mad, but it's mad in a way that actually kind of makes sense to, uh, unfortunately, makes sense to a modern reader, as a thwarted male turning his violence out on the world and wreaking horrible, horrible violence indiscriminately on everyone. That's my impression. I guess we'll see. I might even read a little synopsis ahead just to see if am I barking up the wrong tree there? Am I putting too much energy into that? But that's my thought. All right. I've been Jay now. More videos later.